My name's John Carty, and I was a technical teacher in a secondary school in Paisley, and I did that for 35 years. I said there's got to be something else rather than teaching in one place for all this time. So I had heard about men's sheds through various websites, and a couple of years beforehand I mentioned to someone that I was interested in doing it when I retired, and they put me on to Glasgow Caledonian University, who had done a study in it, and they'd actually produced a toolkit for starting up a men's shed.
The toolkit, it's called the An Island Toolkit for Men's Sheds, and it basically has two specific parts to it. So it's designed for people who might be thinking about starting a men's shed, or people who have already established a shed and are perhaps having sustainability challenges. So the first part is basically about what you need to start your shed, how you gather people together, how you get support from the community. And then the second half of the toolkit is for existing sheds who are perhaps having problems with sustaining. So, for example, raising funds, sourcing grant funding or fundraising. So yeah, it's really just a kind of a one-stop shop for all of your shedding needs.
I did have an initial meeting, and maybe I'd get 6 good guys came, and I thought, all right, we can make a start with this. One of them has lasted the course, and that's Brian.
Okay, my name's Brian Watson. I'm originally from Lanarkshire. Lucky enough, I left school and I got an apprenticeship with British Steel. So I've been involved in heavy industry for 40 years before I was lucky enough to get voluntary redundancy, which was not hugely planned. I had to do that, or I wanted to do that because my wife was ill and I had to be at home to look after her. So around about that time, it was a month after, my wife was prolific on Facebook and she loved all that kind of social media stuff. And she happened to mention to me that John Carty, who's running the men's shed, had put it out that he was thinking of starting it up. So she said that'd be something you'd be interested in, you'd like that. John and I knew each other just through conversations in the local pub. Both of us quite enjoyed the football, and we'd often see each other in the bar at the same time when the game was on or the football was on, and we both supported different sides, so that was always quite amusing. So we both had different experiences during the game. Unfortunately for me, Helen's had better times than I have had recently, but and John as well, so it's just all good fun. So it should be. Game finished and everybody's fine. And John, again, was always up the end of the pub that Helen was sitting at, and I was on the other side. So, yeah, so I met John through that as well.
That's a good picture you took.
Thanks, John.
That's all right, because you're not in it.
I'm not in it.
I did know Brian before, and I knew his wife very well from the local pub. They're very sociable people, very friendly. Again, she was very gregarious and outgoing, and you know, always a smile on her face.
No, I've met Brian a few times, obviously here. You know, I find him very interesting, very energetic, very helpful as well. I've actually met him outside here as well, and you know, very easy to talk to, very helpful. Because I think it was, although John started the men's shed and John absolutely guides us and leads us, I think Brian was in there early doors with John, so he's got a lot of experience and history. And as I say, I'm only been here since the turn of the year.
When he came to the initial meeting, he had experiences with other things that he brought to the table, which was great. He did explain, he never held it back, that his wife did have serious health issues that she'd been fighting for the past 5 years, and it was pretty major, some of the stuff. But we came to a wee agreement that he would come here to do stuff to get his mind off it, and he would say to me, that's the best 2.5 hours I've had of the week. My mind's away from it, I can do something else. And that to me is a wee achievement, that I'm providing that space for him. If he wants to talk about it, which we did latterly, we will talk about it. And if he wants to get stuff off his shoulders, then it's not a problem, right? We do talk about it.
had experience with struggling with, call it mental health, call it stress, call it anxiety, call it whatever you want. And I was lucky enough that when I was working in the oil and gas industry, it was just a particularly rough, difficult time, and a lot of things combined. So I was around about 2015, 16, and I was fortunate enough then that I was able to get some professional help. And I was kind of reluctant in the beginning to use it, but I'm glad I did, right? Because during that time, I began to understand well-being and came to terms with what was causing me the problems. I had to take time off work. So I learned some coping techniques. I think my resilience certainly got a lot better, and it prepared me for what's happened in the last few years. So I feel as if I'm actually in a position where I'm probably a good person to lend advice when people are reluctant and scared to be open and speak about it, because it's the only way forward. At this moment in time, I feel quite strong, but it's because of places like the men's sheds and other things that I'll take an interest in to keep my mind active and positive and not let myself drown. Just after the pandemic, Helen got diagnosed with lung cancer. She was given 7 months to survive. She beat that. Roll on into the next year. The cancer had spread to her brain and all that, and it was just horrendous, right? I mean, the courage and the strength she had what she had to endure and to get through. The last year has been particularly bad, and she not only had lung cancer and brain cancer. In middle of June, she developed a blood infection, which is sepsis, which when we went to R&H, they basically gave her 4 days to live, and told us it was something that would be life-threatening to young, healthy adults. And Helen was 64. So she beat that. Well, she survived that first round. And what it was, I was in the workshop and I thought, you know what, I'm making everything, I'm making stuff for everybody else. I'm going to make a cloak for me and Helen. As John's got a good pal, does all the pyrography. So basically, I started making a clock. We gave it to John McGuinness and asked John, I said, just burn in the date, put Brian and Helen, or B&H, and the date, 15th of June 2003, right across the clock. And that was the day we met. And then I had it in the house, and then unfortunately Helen went in hospital, so I took it to the hospital and I put it up in the hospital. And then when she went to the hospice, I took it to the hospice and I put it up. So that was there, all the way through. And when she passed away, I just took the battery out. And I've pretty much got it at 11:55 on the 7th of August, and the battery will not go back in. Like, so, the kind of beginning and end. I know she was chuffed with the efforts I put in. It was only just a simple thing to do. But when I was waxing it all up and varnishing it, there was a purpose behind it. So I know these things just make it better. So I know it made her happy, and that was always the greatest pleasure I ever got, was seeing the lassie smile. I mean, you asked us about Helen, a wonderful, wonderful human being, and as a person, and it's not just me, right? She was loved and adored by countless people, and she made an impact on everybody that she met. I was just lucky enough to be able to, call her my wife. So, she's been a great inspiration. I'm going back to the men's shed and all that kind of stuff, right? It was ideal because it's not that far away, right? And I was here 2 minutes, and you don't want to go down to talk about your problems, you go down to get away from them. She was delighted that I could get out and go back to your mental health kind of stuff. It gave me a bit of respite.
Well, the shed was a release for Brian. He would tell me, this takes my mind off of the crap that's going on in my life outside. I can really get my head down, I can do stuff, and it takes my mind away. And I says, I know exactly what you mean. Having had bad things happen to myself in the past, when your head's down, you're busy, it makes everything better. The time goes quicker, you feel better within yourself, and at the end of the day, if you've made something and accomplished something, you feel good about yourself. So I know it helped Brian, and I'm really happy for that. Part of the Men's Shed thing, we are not professional counsellors, we are not there for that. We're there as an input for some people to do things, to get the mind active, maybe get your hands active, to talk, to be sociable, not to be insular, to get yourself out there. And in that way, that is good for the mental health. If you ask any of my guys that come, they'll say just meeting up with people is enough.
Well, that's the thing, it's not all about, last Thursday we came in and one of the boys had sorted guitars out and a friend of mine come down, and next minute we're singing songs and playing guitars next door. We weren't working on machines. It's not all about that, it's about coming down, have a cup of tea, meet folk.
The whole premise of the Men's Shed's idea is that it's men working shoulder to shoulder on projects rather than kind of face to face, where men might feel more uncomfortable chatting and connecting with others. So
what happens with Men's Sheds is that guys who've spent all their working lives engaging in that sort of banter, they retire, suddenly they've got all this time in their hands. And really, coming along to Men's Sheds reconnects them with the outside world.
I think for the middle-aged bracket of men, I think there's a lack of kind of socially acceptable spaces for men to interact. So yeah, you might go to a football game, but a lot of men, it's the bookies or it's a pub, and it's these spaces that aren't necessarily good for your health, whether it be gambling, drinking. So to have kind of a socially acceptable, sober space as well is really important.
Just having a wee talk, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, wee bit of banter is enough for them to get on with, and they all look forward to coming and what particular day they come and see me. So I really enjoy that. Even this week we're all going to a wee theatre trip. We've got a wee theatre trip to go and see a play called Men Don't Talk, which is exactly about that. And again, that's been sponsored and set up by the Scottish Men's Sheds to deal specifically with men don't talk and mental health problems.
Yeah, it's tough. So I'm dealing with grief, which again I try to overcome by some positivity, and instead of thinking what I've lost, I try to concentrate on what I had, and that's gonna help me get through day to day. A bit of advice for any is right that it's not a selfish thing. You need to look after number one always. You can't look after yourself, you're not in a fit state to look after anybody else, and that's just a fact of life. Thanks very much, gentlemen. Over and out.